That was really hard because we would ask them like, how are you feeling, your emotional scale, and are you having any thoughts of homicide or suicide? I remember this for the rest of my life, but I got to someone, he had severe schizophrenia. His eyes were like glazed over. I asked him all this stuff and he said, yes, like the voices in my head are telling me to kill myself. I looked at the social worker. I was like, jump in here. Like I had no idea what to say. So that really woke me up to like, wow, I have, no idea what I'm doing kind of thing and how to respond.
Welcome, friends. Today I am joined by Deziray De Sousa. Deziray is from Canada. She's in Canada right now, and I'm in Brazil. We have a little international Zoom call happening. Thank you, Zoom, for making this happen. Now, Deziray went from Exeter to BU, and there she studies psychology. I don't want to give too much away. My first question, I guess, for Deziray is just a quick 30-second, maybe 1-minute intro about who you are, where you're from, what do you like to do?
Yeah, so I'm Deziray. I went to Exeter for grade 11 and 12. I went there to play hockey. I was recruited there. And then I went on to play at Boston University. So a big part of my life was playing hockey. That's one of my greatest passions, just everything active in general too. Yeah, I double majored at BU in psychology and behavior and health, but I realized I didn't really want to go into occupational therapy, so I also majored in psychology.
Okay, wow. So, casual, just double major, and also being a student athlete at BU. I think like when you say it like that, it seems really chill, but I can imagine that there was a lot going on there. But yeah, let's rewind a little bit. Maybe you can start off by telling us the transition from Exeter to BU. What was that like?
So it was definitely different. I mean, school-wise, I was really prepared. Exeter really was pretty hard for me. Going straight in, I wasn't having to participate that much. I was also very shy back then. I would say BU was different because I was kind of forced to be more extroverted, talk to more people, network, all this kind like participate in a lot more things, especially in the student athlete community. But in terms of school, I felt like I was like over prepared. And BU just really taught me like being a student athlete to that level. Like at BU taught me how to time manage really well, but the transition was pretty smooth. It was kind of nice to, which a lot of students I know don't have, but to be put into a team environment where you're kind of automatically, you have friends. So it was nice. And I already knew a few girls on the team going in. So that was nice to have kind of that support system right away.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's jump right into it. Like, what was being a student athlete like at BU?
People would always tell me like, oh, never graduate college, never leave. And I was like, that's nothing. But now that it's actually over, I look back and like living with my teammates, living with all my friends. Also, just not my friends on the team, but I've met so many people from different sports, different places around the world. So being a student athlete, I feel like in a big school like BU, it also gave that kind of small school campus vibe because we all kind of lived near each other and we would all go to each other's games. It was just a really good community. I also loved my teammates and my coaches, and like the whole experience in general was amazing. But also, hard on your body, a lot of time, but I wouldn't do anything different. It was the best experience.
Wow. Oh, it sounds like you had really smooth sailing. I know for, hearing other student athletes at Yale and some other colleges, they were like, sometimes people quit, sometimes it can be very dramatic, but it sounds like you had a really awesome time. So I'm very happy for you. Maybe, you mentioned that you had to time manage really well. Can you walk us through like your exact hour by hour day in the life of Des, the hockey player at BU? Like, were you getting up at like 4 a.m. for lifts? Like, what was that like? What was your schedule like?
Luckily not. Only like in our last 2 years, we would have like 1 or 2 6 a.m. lifts in the week, and we were all dreading that, and it was tough. Most of the time, I would have class from like anywhere between 8 a.m. to 2:30. 2:30 was a good time, but obviously when I got older, like my schedule became a lot easier because of the types of classes you're taking in your later years. Yeah, so basically 8 to 12, 2:30 was classes. I get some lunch in there, run to the rink or try to catch a shuttle, get really dressed quickly, go to lift. We lifted about 3 times a week, so go to the gym 2:30 to 3:30, and then get on the ice from like 4 to anywhere between 5:30 to 6, and then get dinner usually with the team, and then go back to your room and do your work. But in terms of time management, I think the biggest thing is to have an agenda and to really just every single free space you have, like plan like I would get my assignments done like a week 2 weeks ahead. And I'm the kind of person who would like really plan out like how much I needed to do at a time. And like time between classes, I would go to like a coffee shop or something to do work. On bus trips, I would be on the bus doing work. So it's really about just making the most out of every single minute you have in a day.
Okay, wow. You sound a lot more organized than a lot of the student athletes that I know. That's awesome. Do you have a favorite memory with the hockey team? What was like maybe your highest high with them?
On the ice, I would say we won the Bean Pot, which is a tournament between BU, BC, Harvard, and Northeastern, so like Beantown. And we had not won it. The last time we had won it was they were actually only a club team in like a long time ago, and I think it was like, I don't want to say this wrong. It was like the ladies of the 80s, so like a while ago, and they all came to the game, and it was at Harvard, and it like we don't usually get packed stadiums because women's sports, but like our whole rowing team, our whole soccer team, like the Harvard arena was packed, and we went into shootouts and everything, and we won, and it was the first time like basically ever, other than the ladies of the 80s. So we actually won. So it was just a really big thing for our school, and just as a team to experience that was amazing. It was we still talk about it today.
Wow, that's spectacular. Oh, maybe you can break down also like year by year. How did the hockey team change? How did your relationship with the hockey team change? I know maybe your first year you probably weren't living with them, but maybe you were. I don't know. But you could also walk us through a little bit, rewind, talk about your relationship with hockey growing up, and then hockey at Exeter, hockey at BU. Like, how did those differ?
Yeah, so growing up, I have 4 siblings, so they're all much older than me. So I grew up like the day after I was born, I was in a hockey arena. My mom put me in figure skating at like 5 years old, and then I was like, no, I cried the whole time, and I was like, I want to play hockey. So I played hockey with the boys, like on boys teams until I was around 16, like until the year before I came to Exeter, I played on a girls team, and then I came to Exeter and I had a really good experience. I'm still friends with a lot of the girls from that team. Like most of my friends that I'm still in contact from Exeter are from the team. And that's why I think sports is like a great way to like socialize, especially for me. I was extremely introverted and shy at Exeter. I didn't really network much, which is one thing I wish I had done more. Yeah, so I went to Exeter for 2 years. During that time, I also played on Team Quebec, and I went to the Canada Games and won the gold medal. So that was an amazing experience. And Exeter almost did not let me go. I had to wake up at like 4 a.m. at the tournament to go to biology dissection class. And I was the only girl on the team who was like slaving away, doing all my work. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad they let me go because it was like 2 weeks. So that was very, very nice of them. But it was an experience I couldn't let go. And then I ended up being able to go to a Team Canada camp. I got cut, but that's where the BU coaches saw me and emailed me. And it was actually in my senior year. It was November. Everyone was committed somewhere. I was kind of freaking out. There's no money left. Really didn't know what I was going to do. And then I got that email from BU. I went to visit. And I said, I'm coming here. I loved it. I trained with a girl in Montreal who had went there, and I ended up taking her number too. So it was kind of cool. And then, yeah, I went to BU, and my roommate freshman year was actually a girl that is now, like a sister to me. She's one of my best friends. And I went to the Canada Games with her. We grew up kind of playing together and then got pretty close. And we ended up being roommates, and our whole freshman class were very close. So that was really nice to have like a tight-knit group as freshmen, because like some of the older girls can kind of be scary, especially when you're going in. Yeah, so over the years, I think just how it transitioned in college was I got a lot more comfortable. I also got a lot more extroverted, more of like wasn't afraid to be a leader, and kind of just learned a lot of life skills, and really helped like solidify a lot of other skills I needed that at Exeter I don't think I was ready to do yet. I hated the hardness kind of, especially because I was so bad at math and still am to this day, that those math classes when you'd have to like present a problem, I would not have no idea what I was doing. Yeah, I think BU, the difference was that I found a subject that I was so passionate about that it kind of just made me a better student.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That seems like a really natural segue to talk more about your interest in psychology. But before I ask you about your academic interests and all that good stuff, we gotta pause. Like, Des, you're like casually, you were like top of the top, women's hockey players in Canada. You just kind of casually mention it, but yeah, Des is like really, really good at hockey. Such a funny, like classic Canada story. My mom brought me to figure skating. I cried the whole time. I wanted to be put in hockey. That's awesome. And I think I do remember you missing like a lot of class. I think it was like maybe that was in a class with you. Like Des's seat was empty. I was like, where is this girl? And you're just like grabbing
Yeah.
gold medals. Like, okay, yeah, clearly go do that. Don't
Yeah,
hang out here.
I don't remember. I remember what he looked like. I have such a bad memory. I don't remember his name. He had a mustache. He was a biology teacher, and I remember being on like FaceTime with him in class because he would not let me miss anything. So I would wake up and go in the bathroom of our like little hotel room and be like whispering, and yeah, it was an experience.
Wow, that's wild. That's wild. I love the dedication. I mean, a lot of people, when they are a student athlete, like they prioritize one more than the other, but it sounds like you were just equally invested in both. So let's talk a little bit about your interest in psychology. Obviously, there's not like, I don't think there were psychology classes at Exeter in high school. So how did that come about? Were you one day watching like psychology TED Talk and you got interested? How did you get into that?
I started at BU as a pre-med, like one, and biology major, and I took Chemo 101, and I did very poorly, and I was like, this is not the career for me, and I really thought about it, and I said, like, I hate hospitals. I don't think I could not be a doctor, so I was looking through the majors. I had no idea, and then one of my teammates was doing occupational therapy, and she kind of told me what it was. It had to do with like more taking classes like anatomy, like more biology, and learning about like rehab, all that kind of stuff. So I decided to do that. And then within that major, I had to take some behavioral courses. So those were in either like anthropology, like all this kind of stuff. So I chose psychology. And yeah, those first few classes, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I had volunteered in a few places in occupational therapy, and I liked it, but I wasn't like super like passionate about it. And I actually ended up, I don't know the order, but I did see a psychologist myself, and I absolutely loved her, and she helped me so much that I was like, I want to be you, like in her methods and everything. And also I ended up during my time volunteering at the VA in the States, so Veterans Affairs, with veterans with very severe mental health, so PTSD, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression. And that was my first experience like one-on-one with people who had like severe mental health issues. And that really opened my eyes to the need for people. So yeah, I worked with a social worker, and we kind of ran dialectical behavioral therapy groups. And I sat in on some art therapy, and it was just like, amazing what they showed me. And it really showed me that like, wow, I have so much more to learn.
So when it came to the VA, how did you first get involved? And, how often were you going? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a practicum or anything. I just wanted to have an experience in mental health. So I kind of just looked on BU's website of potential practicum for seniors, and I emailed the social worker there, and I went in once a week for 4 hours. There was actually another student there. Yeah, we would go in, we would run the DBT group, and that was a few weeks. We kind of just observed her, and then afterwards I would do a check-in with them, and then he would do the actual subject, and then we'd kind of switch. But most of the session, I would say, was kind of checking in with them, and that was really hard because we would ask them like, how are you feeling, your emotional scale, and are you having any thoughts of homicide or suicide? I remember this for the rest of my life, but I got to someone, he had severe schizophrenia. His eyes were like glazed over, I asked him all this stuff, and he said, yes, like the voices in my head are telling me to kill myself. I looked at the social worker. I was like, jump in here. Like I had no idea what to say. So that really woke me up to like, wow, I have, no idea what I'm doing kind of thing and how to respond. And then with the art therapy groups, they had this newspaper that they would write, or this magazine, and one of the writers actually wrote a story about me and the other volunteer. So it was nice to kind of like read all these stories and like see how creative they are and how they use art. And they also did Tai Chi that we got to experience. So it was just a really good first step into the clinical world.
So are you thinking of becoming or like working at one of these places long term? I know that again, like therapy, psychology, there's lots of different people you could work with, lots of different organizations you could work with. If you could like pick your first choice, where would you work and why?
In Canada, or in Montreal at least, there's nothing like in the States where there's like trauma centers. I'm really interested in working with psychological trauma. I'm not sure yet if like with children or adolescents or adults, but I plan to get more training after getting a doctorate, getting more training in things like EMDR and somatic experiencing and all these things that are specialized to help people with trauma. That's kind of the route I'm going in. So I'll probably start maybe working somewhere, obviously, but hopefully get my own practice and maybe one day kind of open up my own center of some sort.
That would be really cool. If you open like a trauma center for teenagers in Montreal.
Yeah, like some kind of like wellness center. I'm also really into like yoga. I'm doing my yoga teacher training. So incorporating that kind of stuff like breath work, Tai Chi, all those kinds of things I've gotten into, especially during this quarantine.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. How does this work translate to your own personal life? You're doing yoga. Funny story, I started doing like tons of hot yoga at Exeter. It used to be free, like Tuesday nights. And I would go. Yeah. It would be me and like a few guys from the dorm. We would be like sweating like crazy. It was so difficult. We were running on like 6 hours of sleep, and then I would go and like break dance afterwards. That was wild. But how has studying psychology affected your personal life? Have you kind of like reflected more inwardsly and been like, this needs to change, or I didn't know this before?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be like, ever since I was little, I was like a ball of anxiety, socially general anxiety, just very anxious, very shy, all through Exeter, through BU2, and then my sophomore year in college, I got out of like a really bad relationship, and that's when I kind of dove deep into, I had like two pretty bad relationships, so I'd never really been on my own to be able to kind of find myself, I guess, or things like that. So working with a psychologist was the first step, and I think the best. And then just being on my own, being with my friends. I studied abroad in Italy for a summer, which was honestly with my 3 best friends. So that was like the best thing ever. And then after that, I kind of just grew from there. And working in mental health, definitely like reading a bunch of books on mental health and finding yoga, journaling, all this stuff that I tell people to do. And I like, it's kind of like practice what you preach, I say. And I'm learning so much, and then I'm incorporating it into my life. And I find it's like great. Like it's helped me so much to be just less anxious, not caring so much about what everyone thinks, kind of things like that. Just in general, just really looking at myself and working on things daily, like always trying to grow and be better. And also as a counselor, you deal with a lot of heavy things. So just being able to separate your personal and work life.
Yeah, well, I have a few questions after this, which you prompted me. My first is about your study abroad experience in Italy. What was that like? Des, come on. I feel like you've had like a dream college experience. You're like, I grew out of my shell. The hockey team was amazing. I studied abroad in Italy with my best friend. We won this cup. I was like, okay. Yeah, like out of all the kids that I've interviewed, you're like coming out just like radiant. Like you killed college. This is crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, we studied in Padua, Italy, which is really close to Venice. And it was one class for 4 weeks. It was kind of like a BU professor took all of us to Padua. So it wasn't like studying at a university there. BU just has a building there. It's not affiliated with the university there at all. And we took a class on the Mediterranean diet. So it was nutrition class, and it was like so chill. The professors were amazing. Yeah, we like would go to the market. We went to the Dolomites, went to like a gelato factory. And after the 4 weeks of the class, me and my 3 friends we did 2 weeks kind of just doing the rest of Italy. If anyone's looking for a study abroad, look at BU's Mediterranean diet because they do accept students from other universities.
I have no words. I'm so jealous. Like I was literally dying when I was in the summer in college. I was like working like crazy on my startup. I wish I was in some far away. This class just sounds like an excuse to eat Italian food. You guys went to a gelato factory? Amazing. Wow. What did you do during your other summers? So when was that? Was that like junior to senior year, sophomore to junior year?
Yeah, junior before my senior year. And every summer, like my freshman to sophomore year, I did summer school. So the first summer, so that's like May till beginning of July. And I would take like 1 or 2 classes and we'd have workouts at 6. Oh yeah, summer workouts were at 6 a.m. That was fun. And then my sophomore year, I did the same thing. And then, yeah, so I was mostly at school every summer. A lot of the girls stayed. So it was fun to be there in the summer and then get like half the summer at home.
All right. Wow. I think Des, like you basically just did college right. I wish I had done my college experience was looking like yours. Did you do anything outside of hockey and the psychology work experiences summer? I know a lot of student athletes typically don't have enough time to do an extracurricular, but I'm just wondering maybe, or even if it was just like a hobby.
Other than I volunteered a lot, that was my extracurricular, just volunteering in occupational therapy or psychology. Yeah, one of the summers I volunteered at a mental health clinic as like an office intern.
Mm.
I at the same time volunteered for a while at a pediatric occupational therapy place. So throughout my whole college, I was always volunteering places.
Mm-hmm.
To get that experience with different populations and build up my CV. So, yeah.
How did you find these opportunities? Were you just like chatting with girls hockey team and they're like, Des, apply to this? Or was it like on a website?
It was just through my own research most of the time, or through the BU website. I found the veterans one. What I would say, one of my biggest my advice for students who are going into psychology is to, as soon as you get into college, join a lab that you think, or at least your sophomore year, because I only started my like knowing I wanted to do psychology around my junior year. And by that time, I had no time to do like a directed study or honors thesis. And now going to try to go to a doctorate, they always ask if you've had an honors thesis and all this stuff. I did work in a lab for my senior year, but I didn't really do much. It was kind of just observing and knowing the process. So yeah, some advice I would say is just get in a lab soon and then do an honors thesis.
Yeah, it really helps. Even if like, I know like kids who come in and they just have like, they're like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm interested in. They have a huge advantage over the kids who took like 2 years to figure out what they like or don't like. But then again, everyone goes at their own pace. So your PhD program, are you thinking of, are you looking at schools in America, in Canada? What kind of research do you want to do?
No, I'm applying in Quebec. I want to stay here. I want to be close to my family. And so I'm applying. I mean, I hope to hear back soon. Something to do with trauma, and not sure what exactly yet, because that depends where I go. And I kind of have an idea, but I don't want to jinx it. So
Gotcha.
I don't want to say it and then this airs and then it's like.
Yeah. Okay, understood. So speaking about advice you would give to younger students, the psychology advice is really great. I think that really applies to most of the like medical fields or even some of the engineering. If you're really interested in going like the academic route, doing research, getting published, your name on a little journal is always nice. It doesn't hurt. But you also talked a lot about anxiety, being anxious in high school, at the start of college. If you could go back and talk to anxious Des, what advice would you give her?
I would say go see someone, get help. For anyone out there who's struggling, like there's a kind of a stigma, I feel like sometimes, about mental health. So that's why I openly tell people I've been to therapy, and I probably will in the future. It's just something I feel like everyone needs at some point. So I would definitely tell people and myself to get help, and also to reach out more and like try to get to know as many people as you can. At Exeter, like there's so many people from different backgrounds, different places, like different interests, and BU was a little harder to do that, but I did it more, definitely. But staying in contact with more people, getting to know more people, just kind of more networking, so being less in my bubble and meeting more people.
Yeah, but I think that's really great advice. It's also a little difficult, some people have like anxiety meeting kids like that. Do you have any specific tactics or strategies if people are like, they want to reach out, they know it's good to reach out, meet new people, but it's hard to meet new people. It's kind of like a catch-22.
Going to see someone and talking about like what are the roots of that problem. Like, why are you scared? Is it judgment? Is it fear of rejection? Something happened that you were rejected? Like, what is it that you're afraid will happen? But in general, I would just say using your breath, like taking deep breaths before you enter a situation, kind of hyping yourself up to a little bit and using positive affirmations. So like, I am likable, like these people are going to like me. I have good things to say, like my opinion matters. And then also your body language. I remember my psychologist told me, because I was like, I want to meet more people in my lectures in college. And she said, well, how do you sit? And I said, I would like, with my head down on my phone, with my arms crossed. And we kind of went over that. If you saw someone like that, you probably wouldn't approach them. And she was like, keep your hands open, just look around, like smile, practice smiling in the mirror, because a lot of times you think you're smiling.
Yeah.
And in reality, you're not. So practicing that. And it was weird because like the next week, someone next to me like turned to me and started talking to me. So it was like such a difference. And I think just with anxiety, you have to expose yourself. Like it's exposure. So you just have to go for it and train your brain to like know that it's not dangerous to do this thing. You don't need to have anxiety, or you don't need to fear this kind of thing. Training your brain and going for it.
Yeah, 100%. I totally resonate with that. You like listed off all the tactics. I was like, can you share a tip? That you're like, I got you. Body language, smile, positive affirmation. You ran down the list. I think I've had a lot of practice because I record lots of videos. So I see myself, I watch myself. But I used to think I was crazy because I would practice smiling in front of a mirror when I was like 12 or 13. I remember reading it in a book one time, or I saw some video, and it's like charisma and getting people to like you, putting yourself out there it's like almost like a muscle that you have to practice. So if you guys are younger, and especially college is a really nice time to practice, you can turn it into a little game. Just like, hey, this week I'm going to try to talk to 2 strangers. We'll see what happens. And then just up it up. And it really pays dividends over the course of several weeks or years. All right. I have one more question. We've talked a lot about happy memories. I'm wondering if you even have any like regrets in college, Des. Did you have any major regrets?
Yeah, that sophomore year was kind of pretty bad because of the relationship I was in, and kind of isolating myself from friends. I would just say that if you feel like you're not being yourself in a relationship, or even if it's a friendship, if you feel like someone's tearing you down or it's just not right, don't be scared to be alone. And like, there are so many people in this world that, you have one life. And that's what I would say. Like, you have one life. I had 4 years in college and I kind of threw one away that I really regret and I will always regret. But I would just say, make the most of your 4 years. Don't let anyone kind of ruin your experience.
That's some sage advice. Man, college was so fast, Des. At Exeter, I felt like every minute, if I was dying, I was like, please take me back to Exeter, where every minute is like an hour. And then college was so fast. Each semester felt like just 9 weeks. It was just blew by before I knew it. Yeah, it gets faster and faster each year. All right. Well, I think we're nearing the end. Is there anything else that you want to share or talk about before we wrap this up?
Should I talk about where I work now?
Yeah. What are you up to? What are you up to these days? I assume you're not playing hockey and doing like 5 a.m. lifts anymore. So like.
I still work out a lot just because I enjoy it. But yeah, I work as an addiction counselor. So this is my first experience actually having clients of my own.
Wow.
And I do one workshop a week. So it's kind of like a 2-hour lecture on whatever I can come up with. So yeah, this is like my first actual clinical experience, and it showed me again that I have so much more to learn.
Yeah, well, I want to know more about that. Okay, I can't let you go and just be like, I'm an addiction counselor. That's like a pretty awesome, interesting job. 2-hour lectures, not easy, man. Now, when you do addiction counseling work, are you working like one-on-one with people, or is it a small group? And also, what topics do you guys cover?
Yeah, so in workshops, it's all of the residents. It's kind of like it's a rehab, so they live there for 6 months. So on Mondays, it's all of them together, and I do anything from like this last week and this week was red flags, gaslighting, like getting out of an abusive relationship. Next week, I'm going to talk about like the polyvagal theory and Tai Chi and self-massage, kind of those things. I did a whole series on self-love, breath work. So it's kind of just whatever I come up with. And then, yeah, I have my own clients. I I have about 6 or 7 at a
That's a
time.
lot.
Yeah, so I meet with each of them about 45 minutes a week, and that's more kind of on a personal basis. I started in August, so yeah, and then I'm actually ending in the middle of April. Because I'm gonna be doing some research for school and stuff like that.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. Des, you really made the most of your time. I think you said like, oh, I wasted sophomore year, but you were like studying on the bus. You were every minute was almost like accounted for. And I'm really impressed by like the number of opportunities you found. It really is, guys, one of those things where sometimes the opportunities kind of fall in your lap, but if you guys want to make it, be real safe, I recommend probably just setting aside a couple hours each semester, like sitting down and really create a spreadsheet, look at what you're interested in, apply for those opportunities, learn how to email well. One thing, it's the first, I would say the first job or two is typically the hardest. Once you have those on your like resume, it'll be easier to get more opportunities, like a little snowball effect. Awesome. That's so cool. I think the last time we talked must have been like in the class very briefly. We've never had like a full conversation like this. So it's been so wonderful to get to learn more about you, your experiences, and what you've done and where you're going. I think it's really motivating. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions for Des, maybe you can leave them in the comment section below, and then I'll bother Desiree, and she can respond when she has a free block. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll catch you the next one.
Thank you.